Welcome to She's Plain.
She's Plain.
Very special episode.
We were
today.
Able to sit down with
the Hollywood Now
chapter of the Vagina Monologues.
And we're talking to all these incredible, amazing, talented, active women who are involved in all sorts of organizations. We are learning so much from them, and we're really excited for you to learn from them and hear from them too.
Hopefully this inspires you to maybe reach out to some different organizations.
Reach out to somebody. I just made up a new song.
It's good.
I could have gone with one of the ones that already exist, but I was like,
I liked that one.
Do my own thing.
I think we did it.
I'm John Erickson. I'm the president of the Hollywood chapter of the National Organization for Women and the producer for the production of the Vagina Monologues.
What's changed from last year?
So we've had, 2 women's marches now. Our first practice last year was the day after the Women's March, and our first practice this year is the week after. And I think if anything we've learned within that whole year since our production and onward, that the Women's March along with this production propels people into these new movements that, to give themselves a voice and to understand that voice, coming through these new issues of concern, from Me Too to Time's Up to Trans Lives Matter to Black Lives Matter to even, when you look at the positive, the Wonder Woman, the running for office, right? And all these topics are so relevant now. They were the last time, but there's an even more shift and focus on them as we make sure that whatever we do culturally lifts up those really important movements that people need to know more about, get more involved about, because they have real life, consequences and actions and everything that we're doing.
What do you specifically hope people that are in the production and people that attend the productions will gain from the experience?
So we're really trying to capitalize a lot on those themes. Every year we tried, well, this is our second year, not every year, but
well, every year so far.
Every year so far. One thing we're really trying to make sure is that people know that the buck doesn't stop here, right? That although we're talking about Me Too from a, within the production, or, why intersectionality is so important with like a quarter of our cast being trans, and why the trans community is so important to the women's community and the women's movement, and why, cisgendered women need to understand just as much about their trans sisters and vice versa. Communities of color have been so important this past year when you look at the ways in which Black women have come out in high numbers to vote and, stop a lot of the horrible things going on in Washington. All these little movements have a story, and we're trying to weave them into not only what you see on stage, but I think what you see after the stage production. Because if you don't have something to do the next day, then what was the goal of putting all this work and time into everything that we're trying to accomplish?
My name is Shanna Rosenthal, and I am the director of this production.
How are you approaching things differently this year? What have been the additions? What's coming out? And why?
So one of the things that made the West Hollywood production of the Vagina Monologues so cool last year is that we were able to tie it into the Women's March, which had just happened, and that made the show, which has been done for years and years, feel really current and really relevant, and it was really exciting and powerful to be a part of. And so one of the things that we wanted to do this year was make sure that we were also focusing on things that are happening now, women's issues that are currently on our minds. Every year, the Vagina Monologues features a spotlight monologue, which is a new monologue that kind of updates the script and talks about something new in the world of women. The spotlight monologue this year is actually 3 original pieces from members of the community where the show is being performed. Production is a Planned Parenthood fundraiser, so this year we have a monologue about abortion, which is very relevant to members of our community. We also are co-sponsored by the Trans Advisory Board, so we're very proud to have a transgender representation in our cast. And so those cast members are also writing a piece that's representative of their experience this year, which is very important to us. We're trying to incorporate some of the things that have happened in the past year that are on all of our minds. So the Me Too movement is something that we've been talking about, and Time's Up, that slogan, as well as certain things that were in the media. Since this is the Hollywood chapter of the National Organization of Women, we're definitely trying to incorporate some of the significant kind of feminist moments in the media this year, like Wonder Woman and The Handmaids, from The Handmaid's Tale and things like that. One thing that's interesting about this production is in terms of the audience. I think that people who come to see this show kind of come in with all different levels of experience in the issues that we talk about, there were people in the audience of last year's production who were uncomfortable even saying the word vagina. And there's also, since West Hollywood is such an active community, there are people who have been talking about these issues for a long time. And so one of the things that I think will be really great is if we're able to accomplish sort of putting all of those people in the room and have them having the same conversation regardless of their level of background or experience in talking about women's issues, to kind of start a conversation that everyone can be a part of.
My name is Amanda Smash Hyde, and I'm doing the monologue Hair.
And how do you relate to this monologue?
I'm having actually a hard time with it.
Oh, really?
Yeah. To be honest with you, I feel like I will probably fall in love with it, but I actually don't love it right now. So and I'm not an actor type, I'm an activist. Yeah. So it's always like everything that I get to touch, I'm usually like really passionate about. Mm-hmm. So I'm trying not to be a diva. Because I'm an esthetician. I've been an esthetician for 17 years. So I wax vag for a living. So I'm like, you gave me what? You want me to talk about like full bushes? Odd choice.
It's a little out of your realm.
It is. So I think that's going to be me like pushing myself to and also I'm such a strong personality type. I can't imagine I was telling my friend, one of my boyfriends once said like, when are you going to get that waxed? And I did not touch my bush for over a year. Like we're talking skirted swimsuits, the whole thing. Like I'm the type of woman that if anyone says anything, I'm like, oh no. So to be a woman that's like, oh, I allowed someone to shave my bush and they're cheating on me is a really hard place to put myself. Yeah. And I'm not an actress, so I'm like trying to like figure it out. Yeah.
What's my motivation?
Yeah, exactly. Like, this is like a whole LA experience for me that I've never had.
I hear that.
Because I'm like one of the few people in this city that is not in the industry, so.
I get it. It can be difficult to relate to what you're doing. I get it. And so you said that you're an activist, which is awesome. I mean, I'm pretty sure a lot of the people that are involved with this particular performance are. Yeah. So will you talk about activism in 2017 and kind of maybe how your activism has changed since 2000? Because that was a big year.
So I'll actually tell you, honestly, last year I burned myself out thoroughly because I said yes to everything. Yeah. And I'm newly out of a personal renaissance of taking 4 months off, of where I literally had no idea what was going on in any form of national news, nothing. And I have trimmed all the fat. And now I'm only doing things that I truly care about and where I'm going to be able to be successful. Okay. And so I've gotten highly localized. And for me right now, the biggest issue I care about are the issues of housing. Because I have found that if you don't have a place to live, you can't do anything. And we have such an immense housing crisis in not only the city of Los Angeles, but the state of California. And so for me, it's like renters issues, housing issues. I've just gotten laser focused on one issue so that I can basically, too, if I'm working with other organizations, if I have one issue, I'm not spread so thin. Because I was trying to do everything. And it was just way too much. And I have a small business. And it was suffering because I was like, if I don't go do this, nobody will. And it was like my car registration was 6 months expired. Like my personal life was fucking falling apart. Mm-hmm. But my activism was great. But then it was like I got super sick. Oh, my whole world crumbled around me. So I had to really do like a reboot and get really, like I said, laser focused on an issue that I could be successful in.
I think that's really smart and healthy.
And I got really involved in party politics. Like I'm what's called a KDAM, an elected assembly district member for the 50th district of the Democratic Party. And that was incredibly frustrating for me too, because I'm one of those people that's like, well, okay, so we don't relate on this issue. We can't be friends. Like it's just, people got really like opposite ends of the spectrum looking for fights rather than looking for ways that we can fix stuff. So it was just like getting more issue-based rather than politics-based was really important for me too, because it got overwhelming.
That's a really good tip for like how to find balance. It's just to find one thing that you can put everything into.
Yeah. And it was also too, I experienced an immense amount, I'm also on a board for a Democratic club, and it's an LGBT Democratic club. And it was the first time in my life, because I've worked in female spaces, that I got to feel real sexism. And I love gay men. And it was like, why are you being like this? And to experience that and then be like, well, I actually don't want to be around you. I don't want to give you my time. Like, it was just a really crazy year.
Yeah.
And it was also like, if you're waiting for somebody else to say when for you, you're gonna die.
2017, the year that tried to kill us all.
I was waiting for somebody to be like, Amanda, you can't do anymore. You're going to drop. And then when people like Abby would be like, honey, you need to, like, you don't know what you're talking about. They absolutely knew what they were talking about.
Now you can see it.
Yeah, absolutely.
My name is Sarah Mitchell, and I work at Planned Parenthood Los Angeles. I am performing one of the Spotlight monologues that is new this year. It is a firsthand account from a woman who had an abortion in her late 20s, which was kind of crazy to me to think that hadn't been one of the topics until now. And I know that they were saying that the one about childbirth was relatively new too, so it was interesting to me how long this had gone on without the choice whether or not to start a family actually being part of it. So I'm glad that that's in it. So I was really happy to get involved in this production for the first time.
And what do you do at Planned Parenthood?
I work in the public affairs department for Planned Parenthood Los Angeles. So I personally started as a patient. I went to the Van Nuys Health Center. And when I first moved to Los Angeles, I thought that I was pregnant. My period was 2 weeks late, and that never happened. So I totally didn't really know anyone in Los Angeles, and I felt, I could go to CVS and I can get a pregnancy test and just like take it alone in my like sad unfurnished apartment, or I could go somewhere that was a resource and full of compassionate women. So I went to Planned Parenthood. Luckily, the test came back negative. It was just, bodies are crazy when you're moving and things like that. But the next day I signed up to volunteer with Planned Parenthood because in the waiting room, I realized that I grew up with insurance. I grew up with great sex ed, actually, which is not very common. And I grew up with really open parents. And, I was in a relationship and, a good communicative, respectful relationship at the time. So I realized that, not everyone has good sex ed, and for them, Planned Parenthood is where they go to get that sex education. And not everyone has open parents, and people go to Planned Parenthood to have, a trustworthy resource that they could talk to and get, all of the facts and let them make their own decisions. And then, of course, for many people, when they go to Planned Parenthood, that's the only health care that they get. So I signed up right after to volunteer because I wanted to protect that for everyone else. I think, when 1 in 5 women will turn to Planned Parenthood at some time in their life. And so, in the conversations people have had with us and that we've had with, past or current patients, they constantly say Planned Parenthood is always there for them, and they know that it's somewhere they can go. Even if they're not sure how Planned Parenthood will help them, they just know they can go and Planned Parenthood will help them figure out the next step, get them the resources they need no matter what that means. Particularly the Planned Parenthood Los Angeles call center gets, on its busiest day, will get up to 3,000 phone calls a day. And, most of those have to do with appointments and things like that. But oftentimes it's people they have a question and they don't know where to ask it. And they just know that Planned Parenthood would help them find the answer and also would, be honest and give them all of the facts, and it has no, bias or judgment. So to me, it all makes sense because all over the country, for so many reasons, but particularly, regarding, violence against women, Planned Parenthood is that resource for people regularly in their life or that one time when they had nowhere else to go.
So 2017, 16, those were like big years for kind of everyone, but particularly Planned Parenthood. Mm-hmm. Have you noticed that your activism has kind of changed, or have you started maybe feeling a little differently about your role with Planned Parenthood?
Absolutely. Obviously, in my day-to-day, I work closely with volunteers. Any nonprofit or any political organization thinks of their volunteers in terms of like level of engagement and a ladder of engagement. So people do this certain amount, they might go into an event or might do something, you want to move them up to being like a donor or a lead volunteer or taking on projects. And so there's different ways that you kind of bring them up the ladder of engagement. The bottom of it is people who do nothing for whatever reason. And then the next is people who don't pay attention, don't get involved, but they at least go vote. Next is paying attention to what your elected officials are doing, hold them accountable, making those phone calls, looking at who voted how with all the different bills. And so I think we're seeing a lot more people go from just the part where they voted to now I'm actually, paying attention. You're just seeing people realize they need to do more than they did before, whatever that means for them.
What's the California Women's List?
So Emily's List is the federal organization that tries to elect progressive pro-choice women into federal positions, so Senate and House. And then each state kind of has their own version of that focuses on the state, governor, attorney general, assembly, state senate. So in California, it's called the California Women's List. And so they work on electing more women into the state legislature, because right now, even California, like super progressive, quote unquote, I think it's about a quarter of the positions held on the state level are women, when we're 51% or something like that of the population. So even here we have a lot to do.
My name's Chelsea Byers. I'm bringing the Hollywood Handmaids portion of the show, but I work as the executive director of the campaign to abolish statute of limitations on rape and sexual assault.
Oh, okay. And what piece are you performing?
I'm doing a couple different pieces. I'm a part of the introduction, and I'm doing the Vagina Happy Fact and the Vagina Not So Happy Fact.
Okay. Can you tell us a little bit about those pieces?
Yeah, the introduction's the introduction. The Vagina Happy Fact is uplifting point. It's a fact about the clitoris and how many nerve endings the clitoris has compared to any other point in the body. And the Not So Happy Fact is what that 8,000 bundles of nerves experiences through genital mutilation. They kind of like sandwich in one of the other monologues.
And you are bringing the handmaids to this performance. Do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, so I've been working with the Hollywood Handmaids, which is a chapter of the Handmaids Coalition at large. They have been the boots on the ground around sexual assault and sexual violence in the film and entertainment industry. So we've done demonstrations outside the Golden Globes, the SAG Awards, and we'll be at the Academy Awards, which is great. The Vagina Monologues performance comes like right in the middle of our last performance in the Academy Awards. So these art installations of the handmaids in their cloaks and bonnets will be placed throughout the entry points to the show with a giant sign that reads, "Don't let the bastards get you down," as you walk in the room. And for many people who are on the outside or don't know what the Handmaids is, I think the messaging will still be clear, like there's something weird and eerie happening.
Yeah.
And so for the show to just start with the, I bet you're worried. We were worried. We're worried about vaginas. Like it kind of brings it all back to that, like there's something happening and we're all so aware of it. And now we're going to tell you what it is and what we're going to do about it when the show begins. Yeah. So I'm super excited to bring it to life. I think it's a great place to connect all these pieces.
I think so too. I think it's really cool. I've been following you guys on Instagram.
Thanks.
I'm like, that's fun.
Yeah. Join us for the Academy Awards. It'll be great.
Yeah. How can people do? I mean, because I know it's throughout the United States, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Like there are different chapters. So how can people kind of become more involved in that?
Yeah, find the Handmaids Coalition at handmaidscoalition.org. There's chapters all throughout the country to get involved in. And if you want to join us here in Hollywood at the Academy Awards on March 4th, we're taking volunteers. We'll get you cloaked up and out there. Last time, the Queen Handmaid herself, Elizabeth Moss, held their head out the window and of her limo on the way into the SAG Awards and gave us a good job and a tip of the hat, which is so bizarre and so cool. Really cool. The point is that people are seeing us and the messaging that we're holding, which reads "Silent No Longer." We're here to raise these issues around rape culture. That messaging is reaching people.
How did you get involved with that?
I've been involved with progressive activism for years and years, and I think this moment around women is just like ushering in a whole new wave of activists. So I've played a big support role in a lot of different spaces, and that's how I found the campaign to abolish statute of limitations when it was a group here in California. So just by way of being out focusing on these issues, I've connected with different people and we've started to make visions become reality. So the way I got involved with Hollywood Handmaids was really by showing up to a film screening by myself and asking questions and meeting people around me and letting those conversations snowball into big ideas that became something real. So just being serious about my commitment to this work and figuring out what options there were to do something about it was really how I got started with it.
Karen Ayres, and I'll be doing Reclaiming Cunt. And I'm also doing the monologue with Ivy, My Angry Vagina.
Yes, and my name is Ivy Bottini, and she is my angry vagina.
How did you guys come up with the concept of doing it together?
Yeah.
Well, I can't see to learn the script because I can no longer read. I can't see, basically.
We had been rehearsing like by ourselves.
Yes.
And then we showed up at the first group rehearsal, and we did it just like we did today, with me sitting next to you, and telling you the lines and you doing them. And
but initially we were going to use microphones. You
Right.
weren't going to be in it.
right. But then Shanna saw it, our director, and thought, oh, well, they could just do it on stage that way. Karen could just go on stage, and people in this town know you. You know, most of the audience who comes to see this know you, and they would just be fine with it. And actually, it turned out to be very creative and kind of a double act.
I threw in a new line this time, and I said, "Oh, zip your lips."
Is that how you talk to your vagina?
Yeah. But this is a lot of fun, and Karen is, for somebody who hasn't done much of this at all, you're wasting your life. You should be
stop.
doing it.
Karen, how did you get involved in this?
I'm the vice president of Hollywood Now, and so last year I thought, okay, I'll assist the director, and I'll do what I can to help out as someone from the organization producing the event. And then when we had Ivy on board, and Ivy said, I'm going to need help because I can't really read the script, and we tried blowing up the font and everything, and so I just took it upon myself to be like the person who rehearses with Ivy. So that's really how I got involved.
Wow. Yeah, I like that story. That's a good one.
By osmosis.
Yeah.
Pretty much, yeah.
You just sucked her in.
Yes, exactly.
And what's nice is she's very flexible. Her mind is very flexible. So a lot of people, if you don't have something to answer, when somebody says something, they freak out. But not her.
Well, I think I had just enough improv training to handle you, Ivy.
Well, I'm excited for your performance this year, and you're doing a second monologue.
I am.
Will you tell us about that monologue?
Reclaiming cunt, and I'm excited about doing that. I love words, so I was really excited when they offered that piece to me, and just the idea of what's considered vulgar, what's considered not PC. A word that has been used by men is an insult for women, and turning it around on its head and reclaiming it. I just love that idea. So I'm happy to do that piece.
My name is Alana Roche. I am on the cast of the Vagina Monologues for this year, 2018. But yeah, the organizations I am currently with are the L Project Los Angeles, based here in West Hollywood. I'm also recently been added to the brand new Women's Committee of Outfest, which is really exciting. That just happened last month. I also have co-founded this monthly brunch called Let's Do Brunch, which basically is a monthly fundraiser, and percentage of the proceeds goes towards a selected nonprofit of the month. It's an LGBTQ profit that we select each month.
Name for the Let's Do Brunch, and we were out in the hall, and we were like, I love that name.
It's fun, and it's clear, right? The short story with that is that I was asked to do an event, to kind of do like a weekly event. A friend of mine approached me, and I told her that I'm not really interested in evening events. I'm interested in creating day spaces for women, mainly because we don't have any.
So what piece are you doing in the Vagina Monologues?
The little coochie snorcher that could.
Little coochie snorcher that could.
That's my best friend did the Vagina Monologues in college, and that was her first one.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah, I found it to be quite a challenge, actually, because it gets broken up into memories. It kind of, in my opinion, found it a little challenging to create a flow to it, a natural flow. yeah, it's a really powerful piece, and I'm really excited to share it.
Anything particular about it that resonates with you?
Well, it is about a queer woman of color, which that's how I identify. I think the main bulk of the monologue references, I definitely resonate with a lot of what she's saying and sharing in terms of, you know, finding women beautiful and just appreciating the softness of the touch, etc. It's very sensual.
Yeah, I like that.
My name is Marie Cartier, and I'm doing a 2018 Spotlight monologue on the Women's March, and it's actually a poem written by my wife.
Oh, really? I love that. Do you want to tell us a little bit more about that? Because that's an addition this year.
That's an addition. So every year, production companies add Spotlight. Then this year, 2018, the Spotlight is on resistance. They wanted to use Kimberly's poem. It's called Exit to Hope Street. And it's about us exiting to Hope Street from the Blue Line at the 2017 Women's March. And so my wife is super shy, and they really tried until I think last week to see if she would read it. And the answer was no. So I said, I can read it. I mean, because it was like, we were there. We were participants in the 2017 and 18 Women's March. But I was there when we exited Hope Street, and she had those feelings.
I'm sure you consider yourself kind of an activist. I feel like we all consider ourselves a little bit of an activist.
I'm in, yes, I
You're
am.
definitely in that category.
I'm an activist, yeah.
Has the past year changed any of that for you?
I think what happened this year is, and I really saw it too in the Women's March. I blog for Feminism and Religion, and last year I did a photo report about like just the photo, you know, photos of signs.
Yeah.
And this year I did that again for Feminism and Religion, and so I was really noticing like the change in signs. The huge changes for me were that now we have a superhero. Last year we didn't have Wonder Woman. Now we have Wonder Woman. And I love the T-shirt like Wonder Woman pushing beside Batman and Superman, you know?
Oh, yeah, pushing her way through.
And I felt like there was a very different sense of ownership of empowerment this year.
Hello.
No, you're fine. I'm so sorry.
No, it's okay.
We're
recording
like
an outro for it. You're fine. We hadn't even started. We were literally just like singing a song about recording.
That's our warm up.
Yeah.
That's how we warm up. We just go, we're recording. Do-do-do. So it's been really great to talk to so many of these.
What I learned.
Okay.
Policy.
Oh, is that what we're doing? Okay.
No,
Yes.
I mean, we don't have to.
Oh.
I was just. I learned.
What did you learn today?
I learned. We were asking those involved with the Vagina Monologues how they, like, how 2017 has changed their activism.
Mm-hmm.
And, like, for me, I think that I went low instead of high just because of exhausted.
Well, you know what? This is something I was thinking about a lot as we're talking to all these amazing women that are involved in so many different causes. It's really easy to be like, oh my God, I do nothing.
Yeah.
But I think for us, I kind of look at doing She-Splain as like my way of reaching out to the community and like educating people. Like I've had people tell me, oh my God, like I listened to your episode on emotional labor and like I had no idea, like, or I listened to your episode on how to be a woman according to Hollywood and I never thought about it like that. And that matters too. Like it's not, policy is really important and there's so many different levels of involvement in so many different areas that are important. What I'm starting to feel about myself and my own involvement in things is that I need to do what I'm good at.
Yeah, I definitely look at She-Splain as that as well. Also, we started She-Splain right around the election.
Yeah.
Like we started right around that time. For me, what I was going to say with policy was that a lot of the people were saying that's the level that everyone should kind of not like be at, but maybe try to get to, is just knowing what's happening and then like voting on what's going on and understanding that. And it's not always easy. Like it's hard. Sometimes
Awareness is so important.
Awareness is important, and it's hard because not everything is so black and white when you read it. Like you can't just go online and search and then have the answer immediately. There's a lot that goes behind it. And I've been doing
if you're just
that.
on Facebook getting information, you're in your social bubble still.
Yeah, social bias.
And there's you've you've curated your feed by who you've friended and what posts you like and whatever. So you're gonna see a lot of the same things, and it's also important to, like, even though it's so infuriating, but like it is also important to not just block out all of the other perspectives. You can get this false sense of like, everybody's on the same page as me. Yeah. Who are these people that voted for Trump, and who are these people that like...
I have a designated 5 people that I do not agree with, and I hide them on Facebook, but I am friends with them still. And once a week, I read their Facebook page. Mm-hmm. Once a week, I go through, and I like the articles that they share. I'll read those articles. Yeah. And it's just once a week, so it's not every single day in my feed, and I get angry. It's just that one time.
And it's on your terms.
Exactly. It's on my terms.
Yeah.
Maybe that's a suggestion for other people. If that doesn't work for you, that doesn't work for you. But, you know,
I think this is a really good idea.
Yeah, I had to. Because I didn't want to curate my feed, but I also just, you can't always take in everyone's opinion.
Yeah, you don't want to fatigue yourself, but you also don't want to let yourself be in a little bubble. So there has to be some sort of balance there in what you're exposing yourself to. Otherwise, you either think everyone agrees with you, or you can get really frustrated and fatigued, because it takes a lot of energy to respond or to not respond. Both take a lot of energy.
Yeah, they do.
Because I'm like, I immediately get all fired up. I'm like,
I get fired up, and then I write this really long, I open up a Word document, and I write like a really, really long response, because I don't want to accidentally hit enter. Right. So I open up a Word document, because that would be off, or an email. And then
sometimes you'll message me about it, which is great.
Yeah, sometimes I do that. And it's just really long. And then I walk away for 5 minutes, and I come back, and I read what's happened in that conversation since, because like, Facebook is real time. Mm-hmm. There could have been a conclusion, and I'm not bringing anything at that point. And then I'll like kind of figure out if this is going to exhaust more of my energy from there, or if it's necessary.
I usually don't participate. If there are some people that are somewhere in the middle and I feel like they'll actually listen to me, I might. Mm-hmm. Usually other people are better at it than I am.
The people that I actually find I comment on more often than not are progressives.
Yeah, because they're like halfway there.
Yeah, they're halfway there, and but there's just something wrong, just a little something. Mm-hmm. I work with someone who I'm constantly like having discussions with, and I think for me it's okay. Like sometimes I have to say like, I can't talk about this right now. I'm not going to do it. But then other times I also think like I'm the only voice of reason this person has. Yeah. And so I try really hard to not be frustrated with what they're saying, and I just like explain it, and they're actually quite responsive to, and they're open to it. And that's why they're coming to me. Right. But it's just that one person I do that with. There are some people where I'm not going to do that with.
But here's the thing. Is if every one person that's like really educated on these things has one person that they take the time and be patient with, mm-hmm. as long as that's a person that's receptive and will actually listen to you.
And they're not going to be like an energy vampire.
Yeah, I mean, don't take on 5 people and try to educate them. That's fucking exhausting. It's not good for your like mental health, and it's not self-care to do that.
And don't take on anyone who doesn't want to learn.
No, but if everybody can have like that one friend that who respects your opinion, that you can maybe teach a thing or two here and there once a week. I don't know. Like that can make a huge impact. You don't have to take on everything and everyone.
No.
Sometimes it's just small things.
One step at a time.
Here and there.
One step at a time.
One day at a time.
One day at a time.
This is it.
Good show. Good show, you guys. I don't know if we've mentioned it before, but we really like One Day at a Time.
Oh my God. Oh, I forgot to tell you this, but when I was in San Francisco visiting Heather, my best friend,
Shout out to Heather.
She has, they have this little, it's like an office area. It doesn't have a door or anything, but it has like this opening, and they have curtains up, and I forgot to do it, but I was going to record myself, take a video of myself doing the Rita Moreno dramatic
She's so
opening
dramatic.
of the curtains.
Oh, I love it.
Next time I go up, I'm going to do it, and I'll send it to you.
You should. So, well, we have to go.
We've just been kicked out.
We've just been kicked out. It's fine. It's fine. It's fine.
Thank you to the city of West Hollywood,
Dolly Parton,
for allowing us
And Dolly
to come by and hang out in
Yeah.
the library and this amazing space that they have available for cool events like this.
and
Thank you
everyone
to Planned
Parenthood.
Hollywood Now, and there's other organizations. Everyone
all
that's
of you,
involved,
and everyone who let us interview.
And also thank you to Sky and Moya for editing this episode.
Yeah, thank you,
You the
Sky.
best, and we love you. Bye. You always do.
She's like.
I was waiting for you to do it.
So much pressure.